All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in as we have plenty to discuss tonight in regards to the upcoming 2021 NFL Draft. And I really want to focus tonight on the quarterback position. You look at some of the prospects in this draft, especially the guys that are going to go in the first round. And the big question is going to be, whether or not all of these guys that have been mentioned or that are going to be mentioned as potential first round quarterbacks have what it takes to get the job done. I look at Trevor Lawrence, and I think, nobody at this point can say that Lawrence is not going to be the first overall pick in the upcoming draft. I mean, this guy has, been on the national stage collegiately since his true freshman year at Clemson. He helped the Tigers win the national championship. Basically, Clemson, has been right in the mix to be a national championship contender as long as Lawrence has been under center. We saw them win his first year. They got to the championship game his sophomore year, and of course they lost to LSU. Last year they got to the semifinal and they lost to Ohio State. So first and foremost, the guy knows how to win. You're talking about a player who is 6'6", 230 pounds, and he goes out there and he brings it. Has a solid arm, has a very live arm, and the bottom line is he knows how to go out there and get it done. My biggest thing for Lawrence, though, in the NFL is playing with the team that he's on, and we're talking about the with the Jacksonville Jaguars. For me, and Dennis is here to really chime in on this, and I just want to get your thoughts about this. I mean, I look at Trevor Lawrence. I think he has the tools to be a solid NFL pro. But my biggest question for him is, what the people around him in Jacksonville. That's the thing. Can he be able to overcome all of that in order to go out there and make himself a successful pro? What do you think about that?
That's an interesting point because these kids come from these schools where they have top-notch talent around them all the time. Travis Etienne, first and second round running back. He's had first round talent at wide receiver almost every season. It's hard to equate what was going to happen when he goes to Jacksonville and his top target is DJ Shark and Laviska Shenault. So now, while I think these kids have talent and they're developing, and now is Trevor Lawrence what they need to push them over the top, So it's going to be an interesting way of looking at it. And then let's not leave out Urban Meyer coming in as the head coach and what he's going to bring to the table as to what they're going to actually do offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it, I think first go around, I think, definitely Trevor Lawrence is going to have the advantage because teams are not going to be familiar with what he can and can't do. And I think the same is going to be said for Urban Meyer. Long term, I don't think Urban Meyer is going to have success in the NFL. It's a situation where, he's coming there with a college mentality. That's all he's known for his coaching career. And obviously things are a lot different in the NFL. When you get a quarterback, you got to stick with that guy. And obviously, I think he's going to stick with Trevor Lawrence. But, it's one of those, we've already seen the dynamic as far as like Urban Meyer complaining about free agency. It's a lot different free agency wise in the NFL than it is, of course, in college, where you just go out there and recruit guys and, you as a coach are running the show. So, that's something that Trevor Lawrence definitely has to get accustomed to because he's going to be playing with a very bad team. But, I look at the second overall pick here because obviously, we know that the New York Jets are going to be taking a quarterback. They just traded Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers last week. They are very high, the Jets are, on Zach Wilson, the quarterback out of BYU. I know that you have some thoughts about Zach Wilson. I think he is a good thrower of the football, in my opinion. But my problem with Zach Wilson, you're obviously going to a bad team with the Jets. It's a situation, you have a new head coach, a defensive-minded head coach in Robert Saleh. And then you look at the Jets offense over the last couple of years. In 2018, they were 29th in the league in total offense. And the last 2 years, they were dead last. So obviously, Sam Darnold wasn't the whole problem, first and foremost. Second off, this has been a problem for me for more than 40 years with the New York Jets. Joe Namath is not walking through that door anytime soon. And the problem is every single time that the Jets get a quarterback, the media in New York, the fan base that follows the Jets, everybody expects this guy to be the next Joe Namath. I really thought that the Jets did a disservice to Sam Darnold by not putting enough talent around him because Sam Darnold has a potential to be good, not great, good, but you know what? You still have to put talent around him. And if they're going to make the same mistake with Zach Wilson like they did Sam Darnold, they're going to be back in the same position in a few years.
Well, I'll start with Zach Wilson. I like to catch these guys myself. I like to watch their games. I like to see what they do well, what they don't do well. Zach Wilson does a lot of things well, man. I'll tell you, I'll be surprised if he's not pretty good very early, William. He's pretty athletic, much better athlete than Donald, a lot more accurate. And here's my pet peeve when it comes to the QB thing. He's not a natural turnover machine. Sam Donald threw interceptions in college, and he started throwing them in the NFL. It's just something that just follows you. Either you throw interceptions or you don't. And Zach Wilson really doesn't throw interceptions. So now what's going to happen going forward is start in terms of how the Jets build around Zach Wilson. He's in the same boat as Trevor Lawrence. He's going to go to a team without much on the offensive end. They're going to need to get another tackle. Mekhi Becton looks like the goods, but they're going to have to get another offensive lineman probably early, first or second round. They're going to have to get some skills. They're going to have to try and come up with Travis Etienne somewhere in there. They need some juice in that offense. Of course, it's not all Sam Darnold's fault, but at the same time, there's some natural hindrances in his game that just reared their ugly head after a while that you just really can't ignore. And that's probably what they looked at. They said, you know what? Maybe this is who he is. Maybe he's Sam Bradford, or maybe he's just these guys in those spaces that are just limited, and this is the best you're going to get from them. And after 4 years, can you blame them for saying, you know what? All right, it's time to try something new. I don't know what the shelf life is for these quarterbacks anymore because they play them so early that it's not like before where you sat them for 2 years and then you played them for 2 years. No, they're playing these guys year one. For 4 years, you get to the end of the rookie contract, and he's like, you know what? I'm not extending this guy. I'm trading him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I definitely want to talk about tonight is due to the fact that we've seen it more and more as the years have progressed with the draft, where we have a lot of these teams that are making reaches in the first round to take a quarterback. And it's like there's no rule that says, okay, you have to take a quarterback in the first round. If that guy is, not worthy of being a first round pick, you know what? Then you can find him later, maybe go the veteran route or do something like that. But I think too many of these teams over the years have, been taking quarterbacks in the first round. I know a lot of people most recently, going to talk about what the Chicago Bears did. They took Mitchell Trubisky. They traded with the San Francisco 49ers to move up to take Trubisky. And of course, in doing so, they passed on both Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Now, I'm not saying that either Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson would have been the players that they are in Chicago because this is a franchise that has struggled at the quarterback position for years. The last legit quarterback that you could say the Bears had was Jim McMahon. I'm just using this as an example, and they're not the only team. I mean, I look back when Blaine Gabbert was taken so high in the draft at quarterback by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sticking with the Jacksonville Jaguars, you saw them take Blake Bortles very early on, and of course that didn't work.
That made me very happy because Khalil Mack was sitting right there for the Raiders. All right, you can keep going now. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, it like this is something that we see too often with teams as far as going out there and taking guys at the quarterback position in the first round just because. And when you miss on that first round pick, especially when you're going to miss in the top 10, it's going to set your franchise back. And this is a situation, with the Jets. Sam Darnold was taken third overall in 2018. So, it really wasn't that long ago. And I think the Jets, number one, did a disservice by teaming him with Adam Gase, because Adam Gase, had the world believing that, Ryan Tannehill was no good. And, it was more about the coaching of Adam Gase. And I mean, Adam Gase's greatest claim to fame was being the quarterback coach of the Denver Broncos when Peyton Manning was there. And I mean, listen, let's be realistic. You and I would have done a good job as a quarterback coach for Peyton Manning because we would have learned something from him more as opposed to teaching him something. So you look at it, you get these kids, but you have to put the people around them. And it's not just the talent on the field, it's also the coaches. So, if you're going to go out there and do these kids a disservice, you know what? It's just a waste of time. And at some point, some of these teams are going to reach, and you're going to see it later this month in the draft. We're going to see teams reach as far as taking quarterbacks early on. I mean, with getting to another guy that is definitely probably going to be in the first round, Mac Jones. And I know that there are some people that are linking him to the San Francisco 49ers, third overall. Of course, we saw the Niners just make the trade a couple of weeks ago with the not the Niners making the San Francisco 49ers, the Niners making the trade with the Miami Dolphins to move up in the draft to the third overall pick, which lets you know that they are taking a quarterback. Veteran quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is not thrilled about that. But guess what? If you're Jimmy G, if you played better, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But, you're talking about Mac Jones. And, for me, I saw, Mac Jones obviously came in towards the end of the 2019 college football season when Tua went down with the injury for Alabama. Played okay in the Iron Bowl versus Auburn. He did have the costly interceptions. But then once he had some time under him to get ready for the Citrus Bowl, he lit it up versus Michigan in that contest. It carried over into the 2020 college football season. And then, of course, Alabama was able to win the national championship. But a guy like Mac Jones, he's very accurate with the football. I give him that. But I look at it and I say, well, again, another guy, is he the product of not only the system at Alabama, because, they run the ball very effectively. You had a darn good offensive assistant down there in Steve Sarkisian, who is now the head football coach at Texas. And then on top of that, look at the speed at the wide receiver position that we've seen come out of Alabama in recent years. If you're a GM in the NFL, can you trust Mac Jones to be your quarterback for the next 10 years?
That's a tough, and let's not leave out the amount of first-round offensive linemen, or first and second-round offensive linemen on that team. Leatherwood, Dickerson, these guys are really, really good players. I mean, Devonta Smith, that guy gets open, man. He knows how to get open. It's just something that he's really good at. I mean, Mac Jones does have a good time in. It looks like he reads pass coverage well. I don't know. I'd be scared to death to draft that guy. And it doesn't mean I don't think he's good. When I watch him, I see good things. I mean, the only negative is that he's not a plus athlete. But to go back to the 49ers, and I'm reading that they're considering Justin Fields and Mac Jones with the third pick, and there seems to be some sort of disagreement between the coaches, the GM, who they want versus who they think they should draft. And I think they're deciding between Fields and Mac Jones. And I think both of them have flaws. I mean, we didn't get to Fields yet. I'll wait for you to bring him up, and I'll tell you what I think about him. But Mac Jones scares me to death. Look how good Tua looked. Last year, the year before he got hurt, with those same wide receivers on the team, just as good as the offensive line, just as good a running back. He looked terrific. He's on the Miami Dolphins. He's got Jakeem Grant and Mac Hollins. Like, these guys aren't open. These guys aren't open, man. So I need to see this work. I mean, it's like I said, that's going to be hard for me. I don't know. Mac Jones, he did not do it for me in terms of when I watched him. I didn't feel anything because I knew I was watching the Alabama quarterback, and I just knew that they had better players than everybody else. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit being unfair because I didn't say that about Trevor Lawrence, and he's got the same amount of talent around him. But at the same time, this is not going to be easy for Mac Jones. I could see him going high or sliding all the way down to the end of round one, and then somebody trading back up in to draft him. Just something to think about, especially if the 49ers go another route at 3, because I don't think anybody else is trying to get up there to take him that high. So I'd be confused.
Well, if you're running the 49ers front office right now, who are you taking third overall? Because you know they're taking a quarterback.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't trade it up because, I mean, from what I've seen and the guys I like, my personal preference, I wouldn't take Mac Jones or Fields up there if I'm drafting. If you ask me, after those first 2 quarterbacks, the next most talented guy is Kyle Pitts, but they don't need a tight end.
Right.
So we're not getting into the draft. We're not going to go into that stuff. For me, neither one of those guys are on my favorite list. I see the talent. Listen, Justin Fields is an immense talent. I mean, he's as talented as you can possibly be as a quarterback. He's built ridiculous. He's strong. He has a ridiculous arm. Ran a 4.4. I mean, what else do you want? You see the intelligence. But again, like I said, I'll wait for you to say your piece on Justin Fields, and I'll elaborate on him. But if you ask me, if I was the GM, I'm not taking either of those guys. I'm taking Kyle Pitts. But you got Kittle, so maybe I'm being a little crazy. But I want that talent. I want that person that makes a difference. When you pop the tape in, I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing.
Well,
That's what the third pick of the draft should be.
well, for me, I look at it, and obviously Justin Fields is the better athlete. If you're going to talk about him and Mac Jones, on top of that, I think Justin Fields has a better arm than Mac Jones. I look at this though, and I see Mac Jones, and I'm trying to, just see how the 49ers do things. I see Mac Jones as a safer pick, just due to the fact that I feel like Kyle Shanahan would be more comfortable with him in his system than he would with Justin Fields. Now, with that said, though, it's a situation for me where, you know what, the Niners, they really better hit on this because, you traded up, you gave up draft capital to go out there and make it work. And I think what they need to do is, if Mac Jones is their guy, I don't think that they should have Mac Jones go out there and start right away. I think, it's a situation you definitely want to have him sit for a few games. Obviously, if they draft Mac Jones or Justin Fields, obviously I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to stay around to be a mentor. But it's a situation you definitely would want to get yourself a veteran quarterback to kind of go out there and school him, because I think Mac Jones would fit better for their system. The Niners can run the football. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are going to be committed to running the football. You mentioned the name of George Kittle, a great safety outlet for a young quarterback, whether it be Fields or Mac Jones. But I really think they're going to probably lean a little bit more to Mac Jones in this situation. My personal opinion.
So let's play a game. If Mac Jones turns into Jimmy Garoppolo, do you think he's a good NFL quarterback at that point?
No.
If he's exactly what Jimmy Garoppolo is.
No, because it's like
from just take the eye test out of it, take what you know about Jimmy Garoppolo out of it, and just think about it. If he throws 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, gets to the Super Bowl and loses, is Mac Jones a good player? Here's my thing. I don't believe they draft Mac Jones because I don't think Mac Jones has the necessary amount of upside to upgrade them past what Jimmy Garoppolo is. To me, if you're trading up there, you're trading up there for an upgrade. Now, you believe you can coach up what? The talent. Any good coach believes they can take the talent to the next level. So I believe they're going after one of these immensely talented guys that can do a little bit of everything, run, throw, or whatever. And to me, the whole Mac Jones thing kind of sort of surprises me, but it could shock everybody. It could be Trey Lance.
Well, listen,
I just believe I believe they're up there to get talent, and I just don't know that you can guarantee me that Mac Jones is going to be that much better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, listen, it's an interesting dynamic because they definitely want to go ahead and hit on this pick. But, looking like further down the line in the first round, I think a team that did not decide to make a trade in order to move up in the top 5 that could be sitting pretty are the New England Patriots at number 15. I think this is a team that definitely, needs to get a little younger at the quarterback position. But you look at it, Atlanta at number 4, they're open to trading out of that spot. Atlanta says they're committed to Matt Ryan. You have Cincinnati at number 5. They're obviously not going to take a quarterback. They just drafted Joe Burrow first overall last year. Miami is committed to Tua, obviously. Detroit at number 7, but we just saw the Lions make the trade with the Rams to acquire Jared Goff. So obviously that's not happening. Carolina at 8, we just saw them trade for Sam Darnold. Denver at 9, they look like they're committed to Drew Lock. Dallas, of course, they just gave Dak Prescott a ton of money, so you can forget about them. The Giants, they're like, you know what? We've given Daniel Jones talent around him. Now it's time for him to get it done. Philly could be very interesting here. It looks like, like they're going to do their thing with Jalen Hurts. I know that they brought in Joe Flacco, the veteran quarterback, but I think this is Joe Flacco's last ride in the NFL, so you don't have to worry about them. The Los Angeles Chargers at 13, they just drafted Justin Herbert. And, the Minnesota Vikings at number 14. But if you're New England at number 15, while these teams are, fighting in the top 3 for quarterbacks, you could potentially sit there at number 15 unless somebody is getting bold, and it happens from time to time, as far as moving up that much to get ahead of you to take a quarterback. So if you're the Patriots, you could be sitting there for a quarterback, although I will say this. If the Niners go ahead and take Mac Jones 3rd overall, I would not be surprised if somebody did try to jump ahead in New England to take Justin Fields, because I don't see him. He has the talent, and I think he would be a good fit for them, but I just don't see them. It's like somebody else allowing Justin Fields to sit on the board that much. But, this might be the year where the Patriots take that quarterback, in the first round.
Well, I believe, first of all, Mac Jones is a much better fit in New England than he would be going to San Francisco. They probably want an athlete. They want to really, when they come with their wide zone concepts and they're booting out the back door, they want somebody that's going to threaten the backside of the defense, which is why I don't understand why Mac Jones would be the guy that they would trade all the way up there to get. Sorry, I just don't get it. I think they're going after an athlete. Now, that's just my opinion, and to me, that's what makes sense in my mind, but we're not GMs. Now, as far as the Patriots are concerned, I don't know what they do. They've been confusing these last couple of years. Like I said, when we had our last podcast before, I'm confused that they even re-signed Cam Newton. If the Patriots don't re-sign Cam Newton, nobody signs Cam Newton. Just my opinion. And they went and tried to change their stripes, kind of, sort of. Before they were, a intricate passing game with reads and everything, and then they went into more of a zone read-ish, quarterback run-centric type thing. I really didn't think that was Belichick's cup of tea. I was really confused to watch them all year with that. But Justin Fields, William, he's got some holes in his game that could come back to be big holes later on in his career if he doesn't fix them soon. And they're almost in the same realm of what I view as sort of like inherently unchangeable things for the most part. And follow me down this line. Even in that game in the BCS playoffs, and he was playing the game, he makes a great throw in the red zone to one of his tight ends or something. And it's a tight window throw. Zipped it in there. Kid catches the ball, touchdown. Pop the tape in. There's somebody wide open right next to him. And I'm like, whoa, that's a red flag. How didn't he see this kid wide open? The guy's literally one, 2 clicks over, William. And if we could put film up, I would love to just put it out there so just people could see that, he routinely misses open guys. And what happens with athletes is that their internal clock is a little longer because they believe they can extend the play. So then instead of them being faster with their feet and their minds to get rid of the football, they're faster with their legs to extend the play. And I think when you run 4.4 and you got a rocket arm, that means, you pretty much like, I can do whatever I want out there. But the NFL catches up with you. They'll figure out what you don't do well after that first year, and then they're going to shut your water off, man.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and I mean, you made a very interesting point about Mac Jones, and I'll take it a step further. I mean, you look at Mac Jones, obviously playing at Alabama. We know the connection uh, in regards to Bill Belichick, as well as Nick Saban. Of course, they were on the coaching staff together with the Cleveland Browns many years ago. On top of that, we saw the situation where over the years we've seen Belichick, take his fair share of Alabama guys and draft them on both sides of the ball. I look at it. I would think that if Mac Jones were available for the Patriots right there, I think they would definitely scoop him up because you look at it and you see the dynamic where this team, they still have Josh McDaniels as their offensive coordinator, and with Josh, obviously, he likes to get in there and really pick the brain of his quarterbacks. And I think if it's a situation with Mac Jones as a quarterback, as opposed to them like taking a guy like Justin Fields, just for the sake of argument, I could see the Patriots, going back to a scenario where they have that playbook similar to what they had with Tom Brady. Obviously, Mac Jones is not Tom Brady. Let's not get carried away. But it's a situation where Belichick and Saban are similar in their styles as far as the football goes. And like you said, Mac Jones would definitely be a legitimate fit for the Patriots there. I mean, this is a guy that, just for the sake of argument, if the Patriots were to take him, he'd be walking in, and I know that there are going to be plenty of people who will say he has plenty of big shoes to fill. And that's going to be the case for Patriot quarterbacks for a long time because you're always going to be compared to Tom Brady with what he did. But I say from the standpoint that mentally, I think he is equipped to go out there and channel out the white noise because remember, this was a guy that went to Alabama and had to be the starting quarterback after Tua. And of course, Tua did some great things in Tuscaloosa with the football in his hands. And, Mac Jones, for the most part, was unfazed. So I think really, he would be up for the challenge should the Patriots take him in round one.
Did you ever hear what Devonta Smith said about um, whether he'd want Tua or Mac Jones? Like he said, hands down, he'd take Mac Jones.
Really?
And I don't even know if I was shocked or just like, wow. I mean, just the way he worded it made it seem like there was something that we didn't know. And, at the end of it all, you really can't do anything besides just respect the opinions of these guys. They get to play with these guys every day. They're with them in practice. They get to see everything. And it doesn't mean there's a knock or a character flaw on Tua or any of those things. But he seemed to really believe in Mac Jones. And, you can't really take that for granted, you know. But as you go down the line of teams that need quarterbacks, you just get more and more confused as you look and say, where are they all going to end up? Somebody's going to end up on a team that already has a good quarterback there. They're going to sit on the bench. At least one or two of these guys that we're talking about today. So, my whole thing with that is you really can never tell what Belichick does. He's been whiffing on his draft picks these last few years. I don't really know what they do in there when they get their pick at 15
Well,
because they could literally do anything. And
well, I think the pressure is on Bill Belichick to do something because we've already heard Robert Kraft say, what, I've had to go out there and spend a lot of money this year, basically because we have not done well drafting, and of course, who is doing the drafting for the New England Patriots? Bill Belichick. And like I've said before, countless times on my podcast, that what, hey, Tom Brady was able to mask a lot of bad decisions that Bill Belichick made in the draft. Tom Brady is not there anymore, and I really think that showed up last year. Now, granted, Patriots did have some guys who sat out the season due to COVID, but nonetheless, you know what? The vibe around that team was not the same. But you look at it overall through the rest of the first round, like as far as teams who could take quarterbacks, Arizona at 16, not happening. They have Kyler Murray. The Raiders at 17. Is John Gruden fully committed to Derek Carr? I mean, Miami at 18, obviously not. Washington at number 19. This isn't interesting because Tyler Heineke started that playoff game for them when they lost to Tampa, And it's a situation where, hey, you know what? They're talking all the good things about Tyler Heineke, but would you want to get another quarterback? We'll have to wait and see. Chicago at 20, they just gave Andy Dalton a 1-year deal. And obviously they weren't sold on Mitchell Trubisky, but you know what? I don't feel sorry for the Bears in that aspect. Indy at 21, they just made the trade for Carson Wentz, so obviously not. Tennessee at 22, they're committed to Ryan Tannehill. They gave him big bucks. The Jets are going to take a quarterback early on, so they have the 23rd overall pick. That's the pick they got from Seattle for the Jamal Adams trade. But, obviously, if you're going to take a quarterback early, you got to try to get him some help. And like you said, maybe an offensive lineman, maybe a wide receiver there, maybe a running back. We'll have to wait and see. Jacksonville at 25, obviously, they're picking first overall. They get this pick from the Rams for the Jalen Ramsey deal. But you know what? It's the same thing. You got to give Trevor Lawrence some help. Pittsburgh at number 24. Initially, I would have said, yeah, but remember, Pittsburgh went out there and signed Dwayne Haskins. So, Dwayne Haskins, he was taken in the first round a couple of years ago. Obviously, things didn't work out for him in Washington, and he was released. So, Pittsburgh sees the talent. It's just a matter of getting the maturity to get up to that level. So, I think Pittsburgh would be out of the question. Cleveland at 26, definitely not, because they're rolling with Baker. The Ravens at 27, they've got Lamar Jackson, so no. The Saints at number 28. I mean, I think that Jameis Winston is going to be their starting quarterback going forward. I know that Taysom Hill has been there for the longest time, but, Jameis definitely has more talent. Green Bay at 29. They just took Jordan Love last year, so they're probably out of the question. Buffalo at 21, definitely not, because they're committed to Josh Allen, and rightfully so. He helped get them to the AFC Championship game. I think 31 is definitely out of the question, because you look at Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, and then 32 with Tampa Bay, the Super Bowl champs. Obviously, the Bucs know that Tom Brady's not going to play forever. However, with the 32nd pick in the draft, last pick of the first round, you still want to have a guy that's going to go out there and be an impact player for you right away, because the Bucs are looking to repeat. The whole gang came back, to try to go out there and repeat. And obviously taking a quarterback at that pick is not going to help you repeat, because you can't have all those quarterbacks on the field at once. So I think they want to go out there and have all systems go in regards to repeating. So, you have Atlanta at the beginning of the second round, the third pick of the second round. Could they make a move for a quarterback then? We'll have to see. But it's going to be very interesting to see when the run on quarterbacks is going to begin in like a round 2 right there, because, we still have some very interesting guys to think about on the board. And I'm looking at two, you mentioned Trey Lance, very good athlete, 6'4", 226 pounds, very good thrower of the football. But I'm also looking at a pair of guys that came from Texas schools. Shane Buechele, of course, his dad, Steve, was a former major leaguer with the Texas Rangers. Shane Buechele started off at the University of Texas. There was a coaching change, and he went down to SMU, and, he did his thing there. And then, of course, Kellen Mond coming out of Texas A&M. And I think Kellen Mond was a raw athlete when he got to College Station. But just getting with a guy like Jimbo Fisher, who knows how to work with and develop quarterbacks, really helped him. And you and I, we've talked about Kellen Mond off of this podcast, but now it's time to shine some light on Kellen Mond, and I want to get your thoughts.
So when we talked before, I actually mentioned his name when I was talking about the Patriots, and I was talking about a quarterback that you could get who I thought could be a good player, and then he didn't have to be drafted in the first round. So fast forward, Chris Sims does his quarterback rankings, and he ranked Kellen Mond 4th. He ranked Zach Wilson 1. He ranked Kellen Mond 4th. Kaboom. All over the internet, Kellen Mond name goes. You can find highlight tapes. I've gotten to see so much more film now because everybody's researching him and doing videos on him. And what you will see when you watch him, he does a couple of things extremely well that translate. Number 1, he's accurate in the short area. Number 2, he's quick with his reads. Number 3, he can really throw on the run. Number 4, he can really run. But I don't know if he ran a 40 at his pro day. He's got a really slender-looking build, but he's muscular at the same time. I just think the kid can play, man. I don't know. I watched him, and I was just like, wow, I like this guy. And then I watched him again. And I was like, oh, I really like this guy. And I just said his name that day. Well, I swear to God, we were talking, and I was like, I like this Kellen Mond kid. I think he could be a third-round pick that could turn out to be good, like a Dak Prescott. And lo and behold, his name ends up on Chris Sims' list. Don't be surprised if he gets pushed up into the bottom of round one. That's what's starting to happen. The buzz is getting so big that he's catapulting up boards because whoever thought they were going to sit there and say, nobody's thinking about this guy, I'll draft him in the third round. I really like his game. No, now everybody's probably going back, rewatching tape and saying, wow, this guy has a lot of really good traits that could translate well to the NFL. Shane Buechele, I've only watched, I think, maybe one game. I'm not overly impressed with him. You got guys like Cal Trask. He throws entirely too many interceptions. You know my pet peeve. You throw interceptions in college, you throw them in the NFL. But he's actually a pretty good athlete. Somebody's going to draft him in the 4th or 5th round. Sam Ehlinger, that's the Texas guy I thought you were going to say. He's going to be like a 6th or 7th round pick, but he'll stick around as a backup in the NFL for a long time. Tough. He can run. I really didn't see the passing game in him that I would like to see, but maybe he's Colt McCoy part 2. And I think Colt McCoy still got a job. Who else do I like? That's about it for me because I don't know, when I watch quarterbacks, I just look for certain traits. Certain things transfer over. Accuracy always transfers over. Athleticism usually does, depending on how athletic you are. And whether or not you protect the football always transfers over. But I just really like Kellen Mond. Like I said, that Shane Buechele kid, I don't know if he gets in the round 2. I'd be surprised to hear his name called in round 2, just my personal opinion. Trey Lance, let's go back to Trey Lance. He didn't play at all this year. It's like absolutely no 2020 tape on this kid. He had the year before 27 touchdowns and I think 1 interception, or no, was it 0 or 1?
Yeah, it was a crazy year.
It was a ridiculous, but of course he plays at North Dakota State. He doesn't have any real stiff competition in the division, but the talent is there. Ridiculous arm, great athlete, big guy. I have no idea what happens with Trey Lance. The team that drafts Trey Lance in the 1st round, they're gamblers, man. I'm scared of that. If I'm the GM, I'm way too afraid to draft Trey Lance in the 1st round. Now, if he falls to the 2nd, and even if I'm in the top of the 2nd, I might shoot a shot at it. But do I think he's a 2nd round pick at the same time? No, I think he's a 1st round talent, Will, which is odd. But I'd be scared to death to draft that kid in the 1st round. I'd take Kellen Mond first, honestly.
Well, I mean, you look at it, obviously, the quarterbacks are going to go early. I think there's going to be a drop off, for the quarterback position just due to the fact that, there's teams out there that have needs at other positions. And then I also said this a couple of months ago where you look at it and say, hey, I said there was going to be a quarterback carousel this offseason in the NFL. And, we really have not been disappointed. I mean, you look at it, Matt Stafford's now with the Los Angeles Rams. Jared Goff was with the Detroit Lions. Like those are like 2 of the bigger names out there. Andy Dalton is, now with the Chicago Bears. Like just to name a few, Carson Wentz is with the Indianapolis Colts. Sam Darnold is with the Carolina Panthers. So, we've seen the shuffle. And I think it's to the point now with some of these teams, it's like, okay, we have our quarterbacks. Let's put the talent around them. And not only, putting the talent around them, but obviously, you draft your team first and foremost to win your division. And then you draft your team to go out there and win championships on top of that. But then, in both respective conferences, you're looking around to see, okay, who can I get that's going to help me get to that next level? And if you're in the AFC, obviously, who's going to help me get past Kansas City? Because, they are still, at the top of the mountain in that conference. And they're going to be right back contending for another Super Bowl championship. So you got to say, hey, what can we do that's going to help us get past Kansas City? And of course, we saw the blueprint for that in the Super Bowl. You know what? You're not going to try to go out there and outscore Kansas City. What do you got to do? You got to build up your defense. And it's the same thing for Tampa. If you're going to go out there right now, you have to realize if you're in the NFC, guess what? The road to the Super Bowl from the NFC side goes through West Florida. So you got to go out there and equip your team to try to get past them. So I think, a lot of these teams with the veteran quarterbacks, obviously they want to put the talent around them. And with the young quarterbacks, they want to go out there and put the talent around them so they can elevate their respective games. So I think this is going to be a draft where, we're going to see the quarterbacks go early. It'll be interesting to see if somebody's going to make a move, to come back into the first round or late in the first round to take a quarterback. But of course, the dynamic has definitely changed with the rookie contract. But I mean, even looking at the second round, obviously Jacksonville and the Jets are not taking quarterbacks with the first two picks of the second round. Atlanta, I mean, they're still talking about Matt Ryan as their guy, but I mean, Matt Ryan obviously ain't going to play forever. But I mean, even still, as a second round pick, you would expect that guy, whoever you take, to be on the field, rather quickly. But I'm just looking at the list coming up here for round number two: Miami, Philly, Cincinnati, Carolina, Denver, Detroit, the Giants, the Niners, Dallas, Jacksonville again, New England, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Cardinals. A lot of these teams outside of New England might not go quarterback. This maybe Washington at 51, maybe Chicago at 52 overall. Because again, I mean, Andy Dalton really didn't sign a big deal to go to the Bears. And I mean, Andy Dalton could be a stopgap guy for them. And I mean, even if you're Tampa, you have the last pick of the second round. Maybe there, you take a quarterback and have him sit behind Brady, for a year or so. Because obviously Tom Brady's not going to play forever. But I think there's going to be a drop off at some point in the first round as far as the quarterback buzz. I think you're going to see, let's focus on the skill positions, definitely pass rushers, definitely wide receivers. And then, sporadically, I think, teams are going to go get back into that quarterback run at some point. Which round is going to take place, I'm not sure, but I think at some point it definitely happens.
Well, let me go back to something you started about. First and foremost, the Raiders are not drafting a quarterback, William. So just leave the whole Derek Carr, John Gruden hyperbole where it is. Derek Carr will be the quarterback probably for the next 3 years. Just leave it alone, man. They re-signed Mariota. He took a cheap deal on purpose. He wants to sit there and relax. But Derek Carr's going to play. Unless he gets hurt, he's playing. Now, those quarterbacks, now that's an interesting thing. Because now you got 5 guys, right, considered to go in the first round, right? We got Lance. Well, let's go in order. Sorry. We got Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, right? Then you got
Mac Jones.
Right. So that's 4, right? Then you still got Trey Lance.
Correct.
So that's 5 guys. You got to find a home for 5 quarterbacks, right? You didn't even identify 5 teams you think guaranteed to take a quarterback. Now, I'd be surprised if Atlanta takes a quarterback. This is what Atlanta's going to do. They're going to take a skill position player, the most talented guy. It's probably going to be Kyle Pitts or somebody, or one of the linemen, Penny Sewell or something like that up there, and they're going to go for what they know with that. And they feel like they need a quarterback after that, they'll deal with it after that. But right now, that's what they're going to do. They're going to take the best player that they can find. As far as building up your defense, this is a very weak draft if you want to do that. There aren't difference makers. There's no Devin Whites and guys that are going to come in. You put them in the game and you're just like, wow, this guy's great. No, that's not going to happen. Now, what they do have is a lot of good offensive linemen are in this draft. Some decent corners. You could get some decent corners. Safety's a little thin. Defensive end is thin. You're probably going to see 2 in the first round. But because it's such a neat position, somebody's going to get pushed up that shouldn't be. D tackle's super thin. But what's not thin, the wide receivers are decent again. This is another solid wide receiver class. These guys they have to get help for these young quarterbacks. I mean, it's a bad combination sometimes, rookie wide receiver, rookie quarterback. But what you're going to do, you have to draft them. You have to draft these guys because they're the talent. The Jets, 23. If they don't take Etienne, then they need to take a guy like Rashad Bateman from Minnesota or Rondell Moore from Purdue, who actually didn't play, sat out, terrific athlete. You got to get talent on the field. Talent wins with good coaching, but you can't win without talent, even if you're the best coach. So you got to get something there. So they're going to need some sort of reprieve here for these teams that are in the need area for these particular quarterbacks and positions. But let me tell you something. Like I said, the defensive talent isn't there to stop the Chiefs, man. It's not. Not in this draft. Maybe next year, but these guys aren't the guys you're gonna go and say, all right, he's gonna put me over the top. We're gonna rush Patrick Mahomes with 4 guys, and they're all gonna get there. No, it's not gonna happen.
One final question for you. Of the quarterbacks that are going to be drafted in this class, regardless if they're first round guys or second round guys or wherever, do you feel any of them has the potential to be the guy? And when I say that, we look back on their careers 10 years from now and say, you know what, this guy was a home run pick.
Zach Wilson is the guy. If I had to pick one, I would consider to be the guy that I think would be a home run pick. He has the combination of everything I like about a quarterback from the pocket, and then he's a terrific athlete. Because we didn't have the combine this year, I think some things got left out. Normally we'll have the combine, and somebody will wow us to the point where you'd be like, whoa, I didn't know he could do that. Like, I believe if Zach Wilson had to run a 40, he'd run like a sub 4.7, which is really fast, and he's really good at throwing on a run. But like I said, you got to go back and watch pro days. But because something like the combine is televised, it's re-aired, everybody gets to see it, I think we missed that this year. I can't wait till it comes back next year. Some people have a problem with the combine. It's probably one of my favorite things to watch. I don't know why I've always liked it. Since it started being televised, I've always liked it. But if I had to pick a guy who I think is going to be the guy, it's Wilson. It's not even Lawrence. And I like Lawrence. I think Lawrence is going to be good. But it's something about Zach Wilson. And I can see why Chris Sims really likes him. Would I have been bold enough to rank him over him? Probably not. But, shock value sells these days. So he got a decent amount of attention for ranking him ahead of Trevor Lawrence. But it's hard. Trevor Lawrence has been ranked #1 quarterback in this draft since he was a freshman.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this draft and I don't see a guy that's going to stand out and be like that home run guy, so to speak, at the quarterback position. Because number one, I think a lot of it comes down to the situation that all of these guys are going into. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going into a good situation in Jacksonville. The same could be said for Zach Wilson with the Jets. I mean, I made my point earlier as far as the Jets' issues at quarterback, over the years. I mean, you just look at how many different starting quarterbacks the Jets have had from the year 2000 alone. And, for me, I mean, Zach Wilson coming from Provo, Utah to the New York area, having to deal with the media, having to deal with the fan base, and you're not going to have a lot of talent around you. I think that can ruin him very, very quickly. You talk about Mac Jones. I think it all comes down to, the situation that Mac Jones goes to. I mean, to me, I think the two best teams that Mac Jones would have a chance to succeed with would be either the Patriots or the 49ers because of the talent that they have around them and the coaching that they have around them. But I don't think Mac Jones is definitely a star. The same can be said for Justin Fields. I mean, Trey Lance, he has a lot of upside to him. But I think, again, it comes down to, who takes him and how you develop these kids. Shane Buechele, he's probably going to be a lifetime, backup. He can get you a start here or there. You mentioned Sam Ehlinger. When I look at him, I think about Chase Daniel. Of course, Chase Daniel had some good years collegiately at Missouri, but he's made a career out of being a backup, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Kellen Mond is another guy. He's probably a third, fourth round guy. Somebody could reach, take him late first round, take him at some point in the second round. But, again, it all comes down to the system and the organization that these guys go to. That, for me, is the biggest thing.
Situation is always the most important thing when it comes to a quarterback. Like I said, these guys are my guys that I like. Like I said, you got plenty of these guys that people may like for different reasons, and everybody's system's a little bit different. But if I feel as though your best weapon is your legs, that's when I get off the boat, That's when I get off the boat. I want to see you sit in the pocket. I want to see you read the defense. I want to see you get the ball out quick. And I saw that from Kellen Mond. I don't know if he lasted the third or fourth round, William. I mean, if you want to bet some French fries like we did in high
Somebody,
school,
somebody's gonna somebody
I,
somebody's gonna reach for him earlier than that. Well, I'm just throwing out that
I'm not even gonna.
somebody's gonna reach for him, man.
I'm not even gonna call it a reach. I'm telling you right now, he's not gonna get drafted in the third, fourth round. We can bet some French fries, man, with some mayonnaise and ketchup, man, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, we see it every year. Somebody reaches at some point in the first, somebody reaches in the second round, because they get that itchy finger to kind of go out there and make the move. And to quote former NFL GM Bill Polian, it only takes somebody to do something real stupid for it to change the tide. I mean, you could have a team who doesn't need a quarterback take a guy sixth overall, and then you know what? Teams are getting desperate, like, man, we need a quarterback, and then everybody starts moving up. It's a domino effect. We see it every single year. So I really don't think Kellen Mond would last that long. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't do it personally, but I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody reach for him in the first round at some point. I really wouldn't.
I'm telling you, he's that hot name. You know, every year there's somebody's name that gets hot right before the draft,
Mhm.
and they just start flying up draft boards. It seems like it's him, and it seems like it's Chris Sims' fault. Chris Sims put that ranking out, and boom, his name is just. I'm like, uh-oh. Well, there goes my dream of the Raiders drafting him in the fourth round, and he's sitting him on the bench, and Derek Carr gets traded, and that was my dream. I was like, this guy's gonna be good. Watch. I tell people stuff like this all the time. I talk about guys. Me and you've had these conversations plenty of days before drafts from years ago. We could go back I could start naming guys, and I'd be like, I told you he was going to be good, and he fifth round pick, and boom. But we will see how this quarterback thing shakes out. Trey Lance scares the crap out of me. Mac Jones scares the crap out of me. Fields, I see the talent. He's got more talent than any of them. If you look at it, he's got the most talent. He scares the crap out of me. The two safest guys are Lawrence and Zach Wilson, in my opinion. They do enough of everything all together to make it all work, and that's why they're 1-2.
Well, there you have it. I mean, we got a couple more weeks, about 2.5 weeks, to the proceedings begin with the NFL draft. And it's been like, as always, the quarterback dynamic is always a big portion of that, because it's kind of like this, it sets the tone as far as what else is going to happen with the draft. Like we said, there really aren't any quote unquote game changers in this draft. Players that have the potential to be solid pros, but not those guys who are going to single-handedly elevate their respective teams. But Coach Ward, as always, it was definitely a pleasure to have you on here. We're going to be back soon. There's plenty to talk about in the sports world. I have some topics that you and I are going to get down on, and we're going to keep the flow going with this. So as always, it was a pleasure for you, man.
Yes, sir. Don't forget to bring my boy Kyle back, man. We got to talk some basketball, man.
Oh, definitely, man. And as always, you can check me out on this 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge channel right here on YouTube. Want to thank all of you subscribers out there. And if you have not already and you like what you see or what you hear, please feel free to hit that subscribe button on this channel. Also, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Thanks for tuning in and have yourselves a wonderful day.